Every day, people of color are subjected to racial bias at the hands of the media outlets. Fox News analyst Bill O'Reilly blatantly accuses Mark Hill, a Columbia professor, of resembling a cocaine dealer solely based on the color of his skin.
Well, say you're a cocaine dealer, and you kind of look like one a little bit.
Moreover, media outlets do not limit their racism to African Americans, but incriminate other minorities as well. Author Ann Coulter is notorious for her comments about Mexican immigrants, utilizing the media to spread the racist ideology that all Mexicans are criminals.
These are not people who have a right to be here, so I don't care if there are two rapists. I don't care if there are two people coming in who are collecting welfare. Immigration is a government policy like any other, and it ought to be used to benefit the people already living here. There should not be any criminals coming in. To be bringing in people who are felons, can't we cross that off the list? I will bet you by the end of the weekend, more Americans will have been killed by Mexicans than by ISIS or by sharks.
Unfortunately, Fox News is not the only media source that displays outright bias towards people of color. This graph demonstrates the gap between the percentage of African Americans who are portrayed as suspects by the media versus the percentage of African Americans who are actually suspects involved in a crime. Conversely, the media paints white criminals in a positive light, urging the public to victimize and side with them. This was the case with the infamous Charleston shooting, in which openly racist shooter Dylann Roof targeted a black church in Virginia. Despite Roof openly confessing that his motives centered around his racism towards African Americans, biased media stations still attempted to argue otherwise, opting to instead call the Charleston shooting an act of religious discrimination. Fox News calls upon Black pastor E.W. Jackson to defend their subtle assertion that the Charleston shooting was an attack on faith as opposed to a racism-motivated act.
At least earlier, and extraordinarily, they called it a hate crime. And some look at it as, well, it's because it was a white guy, apparently, and a black church. But you made a great point just a moment ago about the hostility toward Christians. And it was a church, so maybe that's what they're talking about. They haven't explained it to us.
Well, yeah, I don't know whether most people jump to conclusions about race. I long for the day when we stop doing that in our country. But we don't know why he went into a church, but he didn't choose a bar. He didn't choose a basketball court. He chose a church.
Tragically, racial bias in the media has remained a pressing issue, preventing the reporting of fair and unprejudiced information. Every day, people of color are subjected to the inherent racism that plagues the media. We need to help solve this problem immediately by voicing out our opinions on news anchors' unfactual statements. In doing this, the nation will hopefully prevent further racial statements made towards a minority in the future. You can help join the cause by commenting on our website at jointhecause.org.